Arab leaders have gathered again. Dressed in their gold trim and diplomatic optimism, they sat at their shiny tables and begged, quite literally begged, Hamas to disarm and hand over Gaza to the Palestinian Authority. The pitch was polished, the promises poetic. Lay down your weapons, hand over power, join a peace process. That same dusty slogan we've heard for decades. 2 states, 1 dream, eternal instability. But let's cut the theatrics. This is never going to happen. Not in this lifetime. Not in the next. Because Hamas isn't a loose collection of rebels you can just politely ask to disappear. Hamas is woven into the very architecture of Gaza. Tunnels, intelligence, supply chains, command structures, tribal allegiances. They're dug in deeper than any diplomat's handshake could ever reach. They're not squatting in Gaza, they are Gaza's underground state. And here's what these Arab leaders won't admit. They've lost control. Qatar, Saudi Arabia, Egypt, they're all standing around a burning house they helped build, clutching water bottles and pretending to be surprised the flames are still rising. They nurtured Hamas with rhetoric, ignored them when it was convenient, and now they want to evict them like bad tenants. Please. Let's be real, this is performative diplomacy for Western approval. The Arab League statement was made for headlines, not for Hamas, because if they were serious, they'd back it with tanks, troops, and teeth. Instead, they've tossed a politely worded PDF into the fire and hoped it would put the blaze out. The idea that Hamas will just step aside after surviving decades of siege, assassination attempts, and full-scale war is delusional. This is a group that treats martyrdom as marketing. You don't intimidate them with condemnation. You don't shift them with suggestions. And you sure as hell don't talk them down with abstract visions of a future peace. No. There are only 3 ways Hamas leaves Gaza. 1. They win. Not likely, but still possible. They maintain control, outlast Israel again, and use every round of international outrage to restock, rebuild, and reinforce. 2. They implode. Unlikely, but theoretically possible if Gaza's population turns against them in mass. But even that rebellion would likely be crushed from within or redirected at Israel. And 3. The only real option. A full and total military occupation. Not just an invasion, not a series of airstrikes. We're talking door-to-door, tunnel-by-tunnel, total dismantling of every command centre, every munitions factory, every informant network. And even then, you'd need to stay, indefinitely. Which brings us to the colonisation question. Because once you've razed Hamas to the ground, Gaza doesn't magically become a peaceful little Mediterranean microstate. You can't just hand the keys to the Palestinian Authority and say, "You're up." Hamas would regrow like mold unless Gaza is fundamentally remade. Politically, militarily, socially. That's not peacekeeping, that's colonisation. And nobody wants to say it out loud, but that's the only way you uproot a force that is the root system. So let's not pretend Hamas is going to retire because a bunch of suits in New York signed a document. That's fantasy. This isn't chess, it's trench warfare with a media cycle. Hamas doesn't fear losing power. They've built their brand on suffering. The more desperate Gaza becomes, the stronger Hamas gets. The bombs don't scare them, the bodies don't deter them. They survive on siege, they thrive on it. And even if, by some miracle, you got Hamas leadership to agree to a ceasefire, do you really think every fighter, every smuggler, every ideological cell is going to fall in line? No. You'd see a splintering, smaller, more radical offshoots. Gaza would become a breeding ground for even more extreme ideologies. You'd chop off 1 head and grow back 5. So let's be brutally honest. The Arab League wants peace without responsibility. They want someone else to do the dirty work, either Israel through invasion or the UN through occupation. They're calling for Hamas to step aside because they know it won't happen, and that keeps them looking reasonable while doing nothing. As for Israel, they're not giving Gaza back to the PA no matter what politicians whisper in their ear. They've seen what happened in 2005. Withdraw once, get rockets for 20 years. They won't make that mistake again. Their only objective now is permanent security, even if that means permanent presence. So round up all the resolutions, print the press releases, and fly the flags. but don't be fooled. Hamas isn't going anywhere unless someone, Arab or Israeli, is ready to go in, wipe them out from root to canopy, and then stay long enough to keep them from growing back. And that, folks, is not peacekeeping. That's empire.